Okay? You got to know your real estate.
Yeah.
You got to know your geography. You got to know who the players are. Okay? That's less than half. So now I'm talking with my real estate broker's hat on. If you want to be a real estate broker, okay, and you want to be the 20% of the brokers that are doing 80% of the business and not vice versa, then the most important thing that you have to have is trusting relationships. Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
Avtar.
Hey, Avtar, good to see you.
Hi, Sim.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
We got to do a little intro thing. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Library. I'm Damon Tamanawala, Sim Minocha, and today we're joined by
Avtar Bains.
Avtar Bains.
Lucky me.
The greatest salesman
No, don't.
that there ever was.
That is, only my mother ever thought that. Only my mother.
And everyone that I've talked to in the industry.
Written on the Colliers website. But thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
So first off, I'd love to know a tiny bit more about your background and just first off, where I don't even know where were you born? How did you get involved in commercial real estate?
Okay, well, I was born in Victoria, BC.
Yeah.
Many decades ago.
Okay.
You're an Islander.
I'm an Islander, yeah.
There you
And I always had it in my mind after grade 12, I wanted to play basketball for UBC.
Okay.
And that's when UBC had a really good team, and UVic didn't have that great of a team.
Okay.
So I went over to UBC, was on the JV team for the first year, and played varsity for a couple of years after that. And then my career kind of petered out pretty quickly.
For those who can't tell, Avtar is not as the same height level as myself and Damon. He's got a few inches on us.
So that right after my era of basketball, I think UVic went on to win like 10 or championships in a row, some crazy thing like that. They became the dominant basketball team. Anyway, so I was going to university and I got a summer job. And the reason I got this summer job is my uncle was playing golf with a guy named Kelly Heed, the vice chairman of Colliers today. And keep in mind, this had to be close to 40 years ago now.
Yeah.
Right? So my uncle was playing golf, and Kelly mentioned to Uncle Swarney that I'm looking for a young gopher. They used to, not assistant, they called us gophers in
Right.
those days.
Male guy.
Yeah, looking for a gopher to come in and just do some running around for us in the office. And Swarney said, well, you should probably ask my nephew Avtar. Okay? So that was May 21st. Okay, May 21st.
What year is this?
1979.
Okay.
On May 22nd, okay, one day later, I was already trying to figure out how to tell my parents I'm not going back to UBC. Because I...
Oh, you hadn't graduated.
No, this is a summer job.
This is post-basketball season, but still mid-university career.
So I get in there and I go, wow, I love the asset class. I love the company. I love the people. I like the vibe. I thought it was perfectly suited for my C+ average, right? In those days, you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to get into the real estate space. Today, the standards changed a lot.
Yeah.
And
It's not too many rockets.
well, I'll explain later as we get into it. So I love the platform. And I thought, this is me. This is me. This is something I want to do as a career.
Yeah.
And technically, I didn't have the knowledge, but I had the passion. And that was my introduction to real estate, was just getting this summer job and hanging out with people that were like-minded, industrious, worked hard, passionate. It was a great company.
Yeah.
And at the time, back in those days, we did not realize how unsophisticated the market was.
Right.
Back then, there was no talk of IRR.
Right.
There was no software.
How did they look at an investment decision?
It was fascinating.
How's it feel?
There's very little institutional play in the marketplace.
Right.
You guys are too young, but in the 70s and 80s and part of the 90s, 70% of Canada's grade A real estate was owned by companies called Trizec, Bramalea, the very famous and eccentric Monsieur Campo, Campo Corporation, Olympia, New York, controlled by the ultra-secretive Reichman family. The big five banks. The big five banks dominated downtown Canada, Canada. So the market changed. So when I got into the marketplace, it was not owned by Oxford, who's owned by Omers. It was not owned by Cadillac Fairview, which is controlled by Ontario Teachers. It was not owned by Hoop. It was not owned by CPPIB. It was not owned by Quadrille. It was not owned by Alberta Treasury. Those names weren't even on the radar screen. It was owned primarily by the banks and C-Corps. And interestingly, it really saddens me. It really saddens me that you guys don't know Trizac, Bramalea, Olympia, New York, right? They were the players. Monsieur Campo, you want to read history about a real estate cat? You read about Robert Campo. You've got to read it.
Okay.
So his demise was not the Canadian real estate portfolio. He built Scotia Tower, right here, Bank of Nova Scotia Tower. He built Ottawa, okay? He built buildings in Vancouver. He was insatiable. He was a weirdo, eccentric.
Yeah.
But he got things done. And then one day he woke up, and around 1980-ish is my guess, maybe 81, but you have to check the web on that. So he decides to buy Allied and Federated. You guys know what Allied and Federated is? Okay. Anyway, Allied and Federated owned probably 20%, 10 to 20% of the absolute best shopping centers in America.
Okay.
And he rolled the dice. He rolled the dice and he ends up with Allied and Federated. But the problem is, at the time, prime was going from 12 to 13 to 14%, right? So
3.95 today.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah.
And so how can you buy real estate? Okay, but he had a great plan for it. It was just his timing was off. So ultimately what happened is to pay off the debt here and there, and I'm condensing a story, and a story that I'm not an expert on, I just know it at a high level. Lost my train of thought, what was I talking about? Oh, Campo.
Campo,
So what happened to the Canadian landscape, the assets in the Canadian landscape, is slowly but surely they were sold off, right? They were sold off to pay the debt that was incurred to expand. So if you look at the most successful real estate entities in the Canadian landscape, it's not always the smartest guy. Like, everyone looks smart when interest rates went from 12% to 2%.
Yeah.
Okay. The wind was at their back. Okay. And to a large extent, that's why I'm overrated in my brokerage years. Okay.
Okay.
But let me explain why. Let me explain why. I caught the wave. Okay. When I got into real estate, major institutions had less than 4% of their assets in commercial real estate. Some of them 0%.
Pensions,
Okay?
all the big guys, okay?
And it's because, primarily in my mind, and someone listening to this tape is going to think I'm an asshole for saying this, but in my mind it was for two specific reasons. Number one, the New York investment guys didn't know how to make money off it, right? So they said, oh, real estate's too risky, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And the VP of pension funds and the actuaries that work and try to match their liabilities with their assets, or so their assets and cash flow with their liabilities, they all said, everyone said real estate was too risky. Indeed, even the federal government in the early 80s, Ministry of Finance apparently put out a memo in the early 80s saying to these guys, be careful about going overboard on real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. So slowly but surely, now look where Ontario Teachers is, look where CPP is, look where BCIMC is, look where Hoop is, look where all these guys. Now we're getting 12, 15, 18, and maybe more percent on a much bigger denominator.
And it makes sense though too, right? I mean, every month they got to pay out pensioners, and every month you're getting rent from a property, so it makes sense conceptually.
Makes sense. Okay, so what happened to change their minds? What happened?
You.
No. What happened? We go through these economic cycles, right? We go through these economic cycles, and sometimes their blue chips were up here, and sometimes their blue chip stocks were down here. And sometimes their bonds were worth more than they paid for them, and sometimes their bonds were worth less than for it.
Right.
And then the big collapse of 2008 happens. The huge collapse, almost threatening the entire economic system that's been established for 100 years. Almost collapsed. So all these pension funds got in trouble because all their stocks went down, their bonds went down, everything was junk status. It was a very, very difficult time. Guess what asset class held its value the most and still kicked out cash flow? Real estate. Real estate. So we went through the worst economic time in most people's lifetime, and real estate, particularly in the Canadian landscape, not only held its value the best, but also produced cash flow on the way through. And then all of a sudden, we were no longer an alternative asset class.
Right.
So we've migrated from alternative asset class to being a core holding in someone's portfolio. Whether that is you and your family, me and my family, whether it's a REIT, whether it's a C Corp, whether it's an institution, whether it's an offshore industrialist from Germany, whether it's someone that makes textiles in China.
Right.
Okay? Everyone thinks that having more and more real estate in their portfolio is a good thing over the long term.
Right.
Okay, over the long term. In the old days, people used to try to finance real estate to 75%, 80%, get as much lever as possible. And then if the market changed, the interest rate changed, you got in trouble.
Yeah.
Only in the old days? Depends on who you're dealing with.
Well, in today's world, on the deals that we're doing, we're putting, we wouldn't even think about putting as little as 25% equity in.
But you're also doing multifamily primarily?
Nope.
Or apartments?
Nope.
Not shopping centers?
No, we're building apartments.
Yeah.
But if you look at our portfolio,
Holdings, okay, I guess you're saying
we
for
would be 80% in the commercial space.
Okay.
Right.
And we say we've done 6 buys in the last 4 quarters.
Yep.
6 buys. I think our average equity in the deal is between 35 and 36%.
Got it.
Right? And plus, we're not financing 8%, we're financing 4%.
Right.
So we're trying to take advantage of positive leverage.
I'm at risk of falling.
We've been all over the place.
It's tough because Sim and I could listen to you talk forever, but I want to make sure that we get to some specifics, and we will get to premise properties and West Bank and some of these great things that you're doing right now. When you first got into Colliers in 1979 to 1981, that kind of. I read it, 1979, Colliers had just hit $4 million in revenue. Still not very much.
Very small.
So what was it like? And to your credit, interest rates may have been slowly, good timing for you, but not everybody is known as Avtar Bains. So not everybody's done so well, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so,
no one knew me back then anyway. So your question is?
So my question is, as a young investment guy, how did you get started? What were you doing differently than people, and how did you get your first big deals?
Okay, I'll give you a much shorter answer this time, okay?
Okay.
I went on too long last time. Key is this. There's science and there's art form. So you have to work on both. You have to be great at both. You do. So on the science side, you've got to understand the food group that you're in, okay? So whether that's office, industrial, retail, multifamily, hotels, self-storage, ranches, farms, whatever it is, you've got to know your asset class from a scientific perspective.
Hey everyone, we hope you're enjoying the video so far. We'll get you right back over there. But first we wanted to give a quick shout out to our first sponsor ever. It's a big deal for us. KMB Law are corporate real estate lawyers. They specialize in the acquisition and disposition and financing of property. And most people have a lawyer already. They have the person who helped them write their will or buy their first house, or it's their cousin, or it's their mom's friend, or whoever it might be. But they're not a commercial real estate specialist. And for the same reason you use a commercial real estate agent to navigate complex leases and deal with larger buildings that might have environmental contamination and whatever challenges there might be specific to commercial real estate, for that same reason, you're gonna want a commercial real estate lawyer. KMB Law is located in Mississauga. They're close by. for those brokers listening, they are a very good resource to have, even just for a quick, phone call that they don't monetize. If you want to call and ask them about a specific clause or what their thoughts are on a specific issue you might be having, give them a call. The guys over there are fantastic. kmblaw.com, kmblaw.com, commercial real estate lawyers. They're awesome. Back to the video.
From the math side.
Being in investment sales, what was your asset class?
I picked retail. So I mapped out all the shopping centers from Vancouver to, I think it was, maybe not as Abbotsford, probably Langley. And there was 40 shopping centers in those days. And then I made it my point to understand the shopping center asset class, understand the tenants a bit, understand recent trades, understand financing, understand who owns them, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Number two, you have to understand your geography. Okay, it's really important to understand geography, because if you're picking a geography that is going backwards and is not in the path of progress, where the population is not moving to, where there's no rapid transit ever going to be there, still working on a horse and buggy system, that's not the place to hang out.
Right.
Because capital is not going to be attracted to something like that. Right. So, and then the third part of that equation, so you got to pick your asset class, you got to pick your geography, and then the third asset class is to understand the capital that plays in that arena. Is it private capital? Is it public capital?
Yeah.
Is it institutional, et cetera? And that's less than half of it. Okay? You got to know your real estate.
Yeah.
You got to know your geography. You got to know who the players are. Okay? That's less than half. So now I'm talking with my real estate broker's hat on. If you want to be a real estate broker, okay, and you want to be the 20% of the brokers that are doing 80% of the business and not vice versa, then the most important thing that you have to have is trusting relationships. Okay? That's what's going to make you and you different in the marketplace. Create a relationship with someone. Do not approach someone as if you're only doing one transaction with them. The transactional people in our business and brokerage are in and out, and they're gone in 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Okay? The people that treat it as a relationship, okay, that you're going to the client. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I started in the business is I used to phone up people and say, "Would you like to sell your property?" Well, how am I creating a relationship by calling some guy up and say, or some entity up and say, "Do you want to sell your property?"
Right.
No, you get in the car or on a bus or on a SkyTrain, and you get your ass to his or her office, and you sit down with them and you offer them something without them asking. You give them information about the market that they're not aware of. You tell them something about their property, their own property that they own, that they may not be aware of. And don't ask for the order. Create the relationship, okay? And then, less than 30 days later, follow up and say, "I've got even more for you." Okay?
Keep giving, and then
keep on giving. So a great story, and I hope Chuck sees this. Like I used to, when I was your guys' age, the group that got into real estate early on was Omers. But it wasn't owned by Oxford then, it was called Omers. And there's a guy named Chuck Magwood who built the Sky Dome.
Yeah.
And Paul Colangelo, who was his right-hand man on the Sky Dome. Omers hired them to start them in real estate, right? And I just wanted to meet this guy so bad. It was so I just kept on, when I was in Toronto, I'd knock on their door. They were in, what building were they in? Oh, I forget now. They were just off, not of University, they were off of Bay Street. Oh, I forget the building. But this was like 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. So I used to go in and they're going, "Who is this guy from Vancouver?" Keeps
on knocking on the door, keeps on showing up.
Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And then one day I remember going in and they said, "Well, Mr. Magwood would like to talk to you." And it was the start of a beautiful relationship.
And had you spoken before on the phone?
Yeah, we
Okay.
had communicated,
Okay.
but I was dealing with Paul and just trying to meet people and create a relationship.
Yeah.
And one day I was there in Toronto, and he said, "Avtar, come on in, let's talk. I'm looking at a deal in Vancouver. What do you think about it?"
There you go.
Okay?
That's your opening,
There's the opening. But if it had been just a phone call relationship, if it had been a relationship where me just saying, I want something from you, okay? That's the worst thing. Pretend this afternoon, even in the snow, in cold Toronto, I want you two guys to go on and buy a car from a secondhand car dealer, okay? Before you get on the lot, you know what you say to yourself? I'm not going to let this guy screw me, okay? It's the same in real estate sales. If the counterparty thinks you're here for your interest and not their interest, how are you going to do a deal?
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. So that's why you still have to know all the math and science, okay?
Yeah.
But you've got to marry it with a certain approach. People that tackle our industry on a transactional basis and not a relationship basis are not the ones that are going to see their income consistently climb.
Right.
Are not the ones that are going to have a 10, 15, 20-year career. Are not the ones that are going to get branded the right way, not the wrong way. Are not the ones that are going to become industry leaders. Okay? So, and it doesn't hold, there's a little philosophy I'm trying to explain right now, is not exclusive to brokers.
Right.
It includes everyone in the service business. Can you imagine a lawyer, right, that didn't know how to give service?
Right.
An accountant that didn't. Anyone in the service industry, better. That's why the most highly paid lawyers and the highest paid the consultants in the world are people that have created the relationships and with the marketplace.
I think there's a really interesting quote that I've heard about that. It's in terms of measuring success and how some people that are leaders, true leaders in their industry do it. And the way that they measure success oftentimes is how many people are going to show up at my funeral and say good things about me. Because that's one way too, right? I mean, if you left a good legacy, if you did things the right way, you treated people with respect, you did things and people all around were like, wow, that was a great man, great woman. I think that's a good metric.
Okay. Yes. And sorry, and just to get super granular, when, and Craig Robbins, I remember telling me this, he said Avtar would always make sure that he would tell them one thing that they didn't know.
Absolutely.
And so what are a couple examples in investment?
So this is the problem that you face that I didn't face. Okay. In my era, there's no internet. Right? Okay? And no one knew about what a trade was, what a true trade was, whether it's a cap rate or price per square foot or what the tenants were paying. Now you hit a button and everything's there. Right. So it's a lot harder today to tell someone something they don't know about. But in my day, you could say whatever you want. You could talk about anything.
I still think real estate does trade on imperfect information, though. That's how the market is made, right? I mean, you could think that it's sold for this cap rate, but no one really verifies what's put on real.
You know what the reality is? We've been buying a fair bit lately. Okay. I'll tell you what the real cap rate is after we own it for a year and a half.
Right.
Right? A year and a half. Because we got CapEx coming in, we got more roof repair, the parking lot is uneven, tenant leaves on you, you got to pay TIs for the next tenant. I don't know what the cap rate is. Right? I don't know what the cap rate is. Shit, we'll tell you in a while, right? So, what you guys are facing is a lot different than what we faced.
Going back to the beginning of your career there, though, so you had to sort of figure out who your target was. And you said you chose shopping centers, you chose that as your base. Were you finding that it was more private, more institutional, and how did you sort of help?
In those days, only the super regionals were held by the big guys. Only the super regionals. Almost every food anchor strip, or what was famous in those days was the 300,000 square foot community shopping center. It was not institutionally held.
Okay.
Bramalea owned a lot of good assets. Cambridge did. Cadillac Fairview did, but that's just the cream of the crop. Most of the product was owned locally. There's some Chinese ownership. Ethnic-wise, there was some Indian. The ethnic population in Vancouver has always been very, very active in the real estate market. Because if you come from the old country, okay, the reason you leave the old country is you don't have any land. If you own all the land in the village, you would never leave.
You're not leaving.
You're the king. Yeah, right, you're the king, right? But only 2 or 3 people have the land, right?
Yeah.
So ethnic people never had a problem buying real estate in the Canadian landscape. The first, they got a job, they took care of their family, they paid the mortgage, and they saved money to buy some land. Okay, that was always the core. That was the core. So ethnic people had a bit of an advantage because they weren't thinking about investing in Royal Bank of Canada stock.
Right.
They wanted to buy land.
They wanted land.
Yeah.
They wanted ownership.
Can you talk? So my thinking is always that the person with the best system will win. For that, the person has the best method of collecting data, the person who has the best machine in order to get incoming business. Can you talk about when that shift happened for you? When you maybe the first person that you hired, or like when you started to build out your team?
Okay, first of all, that's not true.
Oh,
It's not true.
okay.
I can remember some of the biggest deals we've done, I got it by fluke. And I can remember some of the biggest deals that we lost. I had the best science.
Yeah.
I had all the science, 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? 10 out of 10. We were the best person in the market to do the deal. Okay? And then what would happen is Doug McGregor would swoop in from RBC, make a couple of false promises, and win the day.
Yeah.
Doug McGregor he was Canada's best broker in ever. You want someone here to come in and talk to you about real estate? You get Doug McGregor, who's about to retire apparently from RBC.
Okay.
This guy was competitive. He was smart. If you pissed him off, he'd take you down. Like he would.
He held a grudge.
Well, he was a wrestler apparently.
Oh,
in university, so you can't screw around with him. But he had relationships, and like there are so many deals I should have had in my career.
Still a little hostile.
That was 30 years ago. And McGregor would come in and say, "Well, you know what? Maybe the bank will provide financing for the buyer." And they never did. What a bunch of horse shit, right? But he was the best broker in Canada's history. I don't know if anyone will ever have his market share again, ever. He was the best. Yeah. Maybe in an independent way, I did okay. But if you look at the national landscape, like when the top 10 guys in real estate wanted the best advice of the day, they called Doug.
You might be the most humble guy.
Yeah, that must be.
No, that's true. No, he had
That's
the
good,
relationships, right? He had the relationships. So
So how did you go about winning business
Yeah.
over a guy like Doug then in that situation? What was your key
my
there?
advantage
over
in-
everybody
Over
else.
everybody else, let's
I
say.
think I was the first broker in Vancouver to come to Toronto once a month. I was
And
the
you
first.
worked Toronto hours as well,
Yeah. I
correct?
was just going to say that. I was the first broker that probably got in every day at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
I used to love, I used to like this so much. I'd get in so early in Vancouver, I'd leave a voicemail for a guy before he got in
Nice.
Toronto.
Wow.
Right? That was, I used to love that.
That would
So
be,
if you-
that made me feel so bad about my day if I go to Vancouver waking up, being at the office before.
So I think I traveled,
Yep.
and most people underestimate traveling. I don't mean just traveling in Canada. Go to San Francisco, go to New York, go to Asia, go see how they do in London. It's everybody's real estate. You just see real estate from a totally different lens when you're in a different country. Like some of the things they do in India, I go, how did they do that?
Like in the way that they build, or how?
Everything. Where they developed, how they developed. You know, we're taking a lot of creativity out of the market in Canada because we are over-legislated. Whether it's the federal government, the provincial government,
Definitely
the municipal government, it's over the top. I feel like saying to the government, buy everything I got, why don't you just take it over?
Question for you.
But they don't want to take any risk. Yeah.
I've seen it before in Vancouver where someone buy a property expecting like a 1 year, 2 year timeline to take it through the process.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now in terms of your Vancouver projects and your Toronto projects? How long is it taking you to get stuff approved?
So I'm in Vancouver. Okay,
Yeah.
I should be spending more time in our own backyard. Really should be, right? I want to be loyal to the Vancouver marketplace. But certain jurisdictions have put not the sign of incentive out and to attract capital to come to the market, they've actually put the sign of disincentive, right? Because there's people waiting a year and a half, 2 years to get a permit in Vancouver to change your kitchen.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They have their hand out. If you want to develop something on Broadway or downtown right now, it's how much are you going to pay us? The city of Vancouver is saying, how much are you going to pay us? So we will, and then you still wait 2-3 years.
DCAs and DDCs.
That's right.
Oh man.
So one of the reasons we bought our last big deal in Toronto has been in Brampton, Ontario, is that new mayor put out a sign saying, we are open for business.
Right.
Okay? We want you to come here. We know our population is going to increase in Brampton from 550 or 600,000 people to 1.1 million people in 20 years. Okay? It's fact. Every level of government says that. What's his name? Brown. I think he used to be your conservative leader
Patrick
here.
Brown.
Patrick Brown.
Yep.
He says, bring a deal to my desk. Right? He's told his staff, we want to see deals. Okay? There's a famous story. So if you go down,
I'm excited right now.
if you go down to Tempe, Arizona, and you walk into City Hall, and you open the doors, and you know what the sign says? Big letters, big sign. We are here to help you.
So weird.
We are here to help you. Okay. Walk into any municipality in Canada. There's no sign saying we are here to help you. Like, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to pay this, and you got to pay that, and you got to put the new sidewalk in. You got to put the new, like, I don't know why we pay taxes.
Right.
Like, everything's added on. So I think the governments have gone too far, and especially in the province of BC with the school tax. I don't know if you guys have heard about the school tax and the speculation tax.
That's a $3 million plus property value. Yeah. I've had family members be affected by that are very, very upset about that.
It's just a wealth grab, right?
What is it? I'm not as familiar.
Okay, so say you had a home in Vancouver worth $10 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of people on the west side do. Yeah. It's not their fault. And keep in mind, the owner of that home could have fought in World War II for Canada. The owner of that home very well may be on fixed income.
Right.
Fixed income. They just happen to live in the house where the land value has gone up after they bought it 50 years ago.
Right.
Okay. So is it 2 million or 3 million? Over 3 million.
Three.
Okay. So it's 2%. So the delta between 3 and 10 is 7. And 2% on $7 million is your increase in tax annually.
On top of your
regular
property
taxes.
tax.
Yes. So, things like that. So what we're doing in BC right now is we are giving capital disincentive to come to our province. And it's not just affecting the value of homes on the west side. It's affecting retail sales of cars. It's affecting the high-end guys that want to sell jewelry or bags or this or that to our spouses.
It's hurting the economy.
It's hurting the economy.
Every way.
So they're going to see provincial revenues go down, and then they put these punitive taxes on to recover, right? So I would like to see governments get on the same page and give some incentive. I'd like to see governments have much more responsibility than borrowing money at our expense and paying for things that we don't see the benefit of. Like, we do a lot of programs in Canada, and I don't know where we can tangibly see the benefit. I think we should really be concentrating on infrastructure. Markets with the best infrastructure, the best airports, the best seaports, the best rapid transit, the best. Those are the markets that are going to create more jobs for Canadians moving forward for the next 100 years.
Right.
But no politician that I'm aware of makes decisions based on what's good downstream, because they may not get credit for it today.
The four-year cycle instead of the...
There's that very famous story about that mayor in Winnipeg, 50 years ago or something. He put off did all these runoffs, so the water had a place to go.
Okay.
Like, Winnipeg would have been flooded 50 times in the last 50 years if this mayor didn't have the foresight to do something for the future generations.
Right.
because I guess they get flash floods and rain and stuff like that. That's making a decision for the future.
We don't have that.
He had to pay it to spend money to do
Yeah.
that. That probably, oh, what's that going for?
Get this one. In 1986, the true story, a totally underrated premier in the province of BC, Bill Bennett. And everyone thought Bill Bennett was premier because his father, W.A.C. Bennett, was premier in the 60s. Anyway, Bill Bennett became premier. And the interest rate was still high. So he did two things that were just fantastic for BC. The first thing is he made sure that Vancouver had Expo 86. I don't know if you guys you're too young, but Expo 86
I've seen the signs. I don't know.
Put Vancouver on the
not
map.
born yet.
It put Vancouver on the map. It was unbelievable. And it was that year we had 6 months in a row of no rain when Expo was on.
Okay.
Wait, what? That sounds like a lie.
Hey,
Real quick.
You've never heard of Expo?
No, I've heard of the Montreal Expos, but
Like an expo, like the
It's
global
a world
expo.
fair that goes from
It was
city
one in
to
Milan
city
that
each
I was-
year.
yeah.
Each year.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So every country comes in and puts in an exhibition, and it was just fantastic. The only day it really rained was the day that the Queen came for opening day. And I can remember them. She was with Trudeau coming in. Anyway, that's Expo 86 was a big thing. Google it, okay? Google it, you'll know.
all right.
So, but BC needed to kickstart the economy. And because 81, the interest rate was around 18% on demand note basis, and it was still probably around 12 in 86. And we needed jobs, we needed to create something in BC that was going to allow us to sustain ourselves. So Premier Bennett goes to UBC and talks to the then Dean of Commerce, Michael Goldberg. And Michael's a great guy, very smart guy. So Premier Bennett says to Mike, this commerce guru, we got to kickstart the economy here. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So Mike thought about it, and you're not going to believe what he said. He said, if you want to kickstart your economy, build a second runway at YVR. And Bennett went, what? You want me to build another runway at the airport? So I can't remember, maybe it was completed in 86. I think the runway was completed in 86. Immediately, like after the 2 or 3 years to build the runway, immediately, the number of direct flights from Vancouver, to Vancouver, went from like 40 to 80.
Oh, right away it was fully used almost.
If goods and services have problems getting to your marketplace, they're not going to take the hard route, right? So all of a sudden, 20, 30 different markets in the world had direct access to Vancouver. Not just people traveling, goods and services getting there.
Yeah.
So today, I believe Vancouver has 120 cities that have a direct flight to Vancouver. Okay? And I believe we have somewhere between 14 and 18 direct flights from China every week. From China.
Everything in Canada goes to Vancouver to China, right?
So
Toronto to Vancouver.
let me ask you a
China.
question. Why, this may be...
Flipping it on us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you think condos in downtown Montreal went from $300-400 a foot, maybe $425, to $650 a foot?
Border flights?
Foreign buyers tax, I think, was a big thing that was affecting Vancouver and Toronto, and that got implemented. I think that's number one. Second, Montreal was not having the same growth that Vancouver and Toronto was having prior to, let's say, the past 6 years, where they were both going through the roof. So I think it had reasonable cap rates before, so over 5% in some cases, right? Versus over here, what is it, 3%? In Vancouver, it's 2.5%.
But still, that's pretty good growth. Why did it grow $200 a foot overnight?
I think that another thing is maybe increased flights
from China. Do you know that
China
there's
flights?
there's four direct flights, I believe. You better Google it now just to make sure I'm not lying.
Now I feel like I just gave a long-winded answer for something so simple.
So Montreal's on fire now, right? It's a value market. But those four direct flights, when they were pre-selling those condos, the lineup that would go around the block were Chinese. Okay? And some may say, oh, they're affecting the market, they're putting value up, but they're creating economic opportunity. They're bringing new dollars into the Montreal market.
Yeah.
Like Montreal's on fire right now.
So when do you think
Just
they're going to put a
fire.
foreign buyer's tax on Montreal?
They may, but I was disappointed that the last government didn't get reelected because they did a lot for the economy, right?
Yeah.
They paid down part of the provincial debt. They had a balanced, if not a surplus budget. They were doing all sorts of things right. And people do look at that. Like the biggest thing about America that scares me, other than their culture, is like way incomprehensible right now from my lens. But investing money in America right now, we've just sold everything we had in America in the last year.
Yeah.
Is they've got something like $22 trillion of national debt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't put your arms around that,
No.
right? So they're living on borrowed time. And I don't know if they keep on printing money. I don't know what the solution is. But I don't want Canada to have their pro rata share
Yeah.
of $22 trillion worth of
Yeah.
debt. We've got to be more responsible, okay? And we've got to get away. The big thing at the really high level is to get away from the feeling that people in business are dirty bastards and are greedy, okay? We've got to get away from that feeling.
What?
I came from a small business, and 90% of small business in Canada, guess what their priorities are? Your priorities are, in my family, your family, everyone's family. The first priority is to pay wages, and the second one's to pay rent.
Right.
No one's making any money.
Right.
No one. So the people that are taking the risk to start that delicatessen, to start that coffee shop, to start that manufacturing, the public and the politicians perceive them as being greedy sons of bitches. They're making money.
Yeah.
No one's making money. No. People that make money could be 10, 20, 30 years. My dad was technically bankrupt twice or three times in the first 20 years of his travel agency.
Right.
I just hate this attitude that we're all bad guys. We create jobs. We try to create jobs.
Yeah.
We try to, contribute to charities. People in real estate are very generous that way.
Yeah.
But we have this perception, especially in Vancouver, that, those greedy bastards over there. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't print this part.
I was going to ask.
We don't need anyone to come
Avtar
after
Bains is announcing his ticket. You heard it here first.
He's not running for the NDP, I don't think.
No, but we got to get a shift in attitude. I don't want my kids to not have incentive to take some risk in their lives.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to have incentive.
Yeah.
I don't want every level that you have to face pushing back.
Yeah.
Say, you can't do this.
Yeah.
That's not the
seriously.
platform that Canada should represent.
And even
Yes.
with, let's say, housing in Vancouver, right? I mean, they should be pushing, that Rental 100 program was a good idea. They should be pushing for stuff like that. But I'm going to get off this topic.
Okay. Just one comment there, okay? We've been talking about it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, we could have built 100,000 units by now.
But, yep.
Yeah, but who's stopping it? It's not us.
No.
Okay, next topic.
Okay, so we have a lot of, I just want to be cognizant of your time. We have a lot of brokers who watch this show, who go through a lot of deals. So, can you tell us a little bit about premise properties and some of the deals that Avtar, we'll do this in the intro that for the podcast and stuff, but Avtar is the founder and principal of Premise. Can you tell us about some of the deals that you look at, some of the deals that you're currently a part of, for instance, the Honest Ed site, and what should brokers be sending you? What should we?
Oh, I see from that perspective. Well, we would like another food-anchored strip shopping center in the GTA.
And why do you
North and
choose
west.
that? Why are you saying food anchored? Why do you choose that as an asset class? Obviously, shopping centers.
Yeah, we don't want enclosed.
Okay.
That's cabin taxes are exorbitant for the tenants. It just makes it a lot more difficult to manage the asset.
Yeah.
We want basic. I mean, what we did in Brampton from Greystone was great. It has a Toys R Us. It's got a food store, Ocean's Food Store. It's got a Tim's. It's got a Swiss Chalet.
Yeah.
It's got a Pet Value. It's got a Dollarama. Like, it's perfectly suited for goods and services that the community needs and requires. So we like that. We like the population growth in Brampton, okay? But we can't compete unless we get like a 200 basis point spread between the cost of funds, cost of capital, and the cap rate.
Okay. So what are you borrowing at right now typically?
You know, early fours.
Okay.
You know, we haven't done a 3. Maybe for residential we could do a 3 and change, or high 3s. But for commercial,
that's pretty damn good still in today's market to be going low
in today's
4s.
market, you know, the thing is you got to watch you guys carefully. Because there's a fee here and there's a cost there. How much did we pay? Oh, you got 4%. Oh, I did I? Oh, yeah, wait, yeah, I got 40. It's actually 415 or 422. You know, right?
That's funny.
So it's yeah, we want to grow that, and then through Deepak Dewan at Light Point, we have a wonderful platform with him. He's just a great guy.
Yes.
Super real estate guy. Feed him infill sites.
Quick. He's a very quick responder.
Yeah. He's
great.
really good. He knows his stuff. He knows what he's prepared to act on. Decent guy, smart guy, good family man. He's got it all. He's got that kid's got that. We're not a kid. He's got it all.
Yeah.
And we're very, very proud of our relationship with him, and proud that he's our partner in Toronto.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to make Honest Eds is a big deal. Mervish Village is a big deal. It's around 1 million square feet. It's 800 plus units of residential. It's 100% rental.
Yeah.
100%, no condos.
Yeah.
We have around 220,000 square feet of commercial. We've done 3 pre-leasing deals right now, and we're going to stop. We're not going to do any more pre-leasing. But I don't want to mislead anyone. We are such a small player. I own like one piece of paper on that deal. That's primarily West Bank and Peterson, and I'm involved in 6 or 8 or 9 or 10 deals with them. So I came in on a very small basis. I mean, to build close to 1 million square feet, you know how much that costs on a price per square foot basis. So that's over my ski tips. But it's a lovely partnership. We all get along very well.
And how many projects have groups like West Bank and Peterson done over here? Obviously, the 2 of the biggest players, the Shangri-La.
Yeah, we did.
All the big stuff.
Yeah, we did
Vancouver.
Shangri-La and Mervish, and in Toronto, and Vancouver, we did the Vancouver Shangri-La. Woodwards, Fairmont Pacific Rim, which is the place to stay at Vancouver for sure.
And has the best girls at the lobby bar. I got to say that.
It's just a great asset.
Go ahead.
We did Woodwards. We got a couple of small deals together. We did some debt deals together. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. And that's the common denominator. That's the common denominator for people that feel that they can be proud of what they've done.
Yeah.
Right? The common denominator is having that relationship, right? Having a relationship that's sustainable and you can grow and you can move forward without every 5 minutes ever looking at, right? Actually, not every 5 minutes, never looking at the co-ownership agreement, right? You look at the co-ownership agreement, you got a problem.
Right.
You got the issue, you sit down and you talk about it, okay? And the other thing for me and most people, and even the toughest guys in the world will say this, and they may not acknowledge it, but they'll say it. What makes the journey more fulfilling is the relationships. When I look back at the 30 years I had at Colliers and some of the deals that we sold and the volume that we did, I don't think of the deals. I think of the people that were on my team, the people that we dealt with.
Right.
That is what you remember. You remember that. Like, my wife spent the money already. It's not the money. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean that. I don't mean that. But you need that some capital to take the next step. There's no question. But it's not what I remember.
Do you have? Go ahead. No, it's okay. I was going to ask. I have a million questions.
Yeah,
so we got to be cognizant.
Give me a couple of real quick hitters.
Okay. If you were just starting in the industry right now, what advice would you give to yourself?
When I started in the industry in the 80s, first year of sales was 81.
Yeah.
They used to line you up in a row. and they say, look to your left, look to your
Yeah,
right.
they still do that.
Right? In 2 years, only one of you were going to be there, right?
Yeah.
In today's world, it's fantastic. The standard is higher to get in. You have to be university educated. You have to do this, that. You have to speak the Queen's English. You got to be from a good family, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, wear a tie and all that.
Right.
But the prospect for a long-term career in real estate, a lot of the risk has been eliminated. Okay. Real estate, at least in the Vancouver lens, would be a third of our economy. All the lawyers, all the accountants, all the tax guys, all the assessors, all the environmental consultants, all the brokers, all the legal assistants. Well, it's a huge part of our economy, okay? So now it is a platform for a career, not hit and miss.
Right.
So don't forget that. But also don't forget, if you want to be that top 20%, okay, and there's a lot of good and valid reasons to be up there, okay, you've got to work.
Yeah.
Okay? No one. Sure, send that guy from or girl from Upper Canada College. And tell him to sit down there and say, you have a card. I did this, I did that in my past. No one cares.
No one gives. Yeah.
No one gives a damn.
Yeah.
No one cares if you're purple or brown or yellow. No one cares.
Yeah.
Okay? It's what are you going to do for the client ahead of your own interests? Then you can have a wonderful, wonderful long-term career in real estate. Next.
Is there anything? Sorry,
Go ahead.
Is there any? So you're an advisor, trusted advisor to, I'm sure, possibly hundreds of companies, but
Yep.
of them, Morguard. North Residential? Am I getting that right?
North American Residential REIT.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry.
yeah.
North American Residential, and UBC as well. Right?
UBC, I was on Aspen Properties, British
Yep.
Pacific, Peterson Group, yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like us to, or our audience to focus on in terms of those things that we should pay attention to, or?
You know, I'm glad you raised that, because you would think, being on 5 board of directors, that the meetings would kind of be the same.
Yeah.
Nothing alike. Every single company has their own priorities,
Yeah.
their own way to doing audit, their own way to think about strategy, their own way to think about succession. Like, if I gave you the board minutes for 5 different companies, all in real estate, all in kind of the, and you go, well, there's nothing similar here on these agendas, right?
Right.
It's amazing. It just proves that it's not one model. It's not one model for success. Okay? You start at A and you want to end at B. Okay? You give the assignment to 10 different people. All 10 will take a different path. All 10 will take a different path to get here. Okay?
Right.
And that's why the creative side, the relationship side, makes all the difference in the world. Everyone with 85% average working on it. Okay? They know their math, they know their science, they know the market.
Right.
But who is going to go from here to here more efficiently? So if you can navigate that process as a broker, okay, whether it's the debt side, the equity side, whatever side it is, okay, you're the consultant. If you can navigate that and make it efficient, streamlined, win-win, people still talking to each other at the end of the day, no death threats, right? Then you have created an invaluable service to the marketplace. An invaluable. And when that happens, you're not going to believe it. They start calling you. Your cold calling days are almost over. Right?
No.
When they start calling you, when the market says, because look at, if I was going to hire someone today in Toronto, okay, I go to people that have hired others. Who did you deal with? Who was the best?
Right.
You want your clients being your best advocate.
Yep. Well, referrals are everything. Repeat and referral is my number one.
So what happened to me
so
is I was sitting at my desk and I was catching stuff sometimes, just catching it. It was
Right.
lobbing right in here. I just said, come on here. because the marketplace was saying if you're going to do a deal in Vancouver, you
he's
should
the
probably
guy.
talk to Avtar. He's
Yep.
a reasonable guy and C+ average, but he's okay and he gets it done.
But he wakes up
But no one
tomorrow
cares about the
and
C
he-
plus average. They care about what you're doing every day.
They care about,
actually.
are they putting my interests, the client's interests, ahead of their my own?
Right.
Yep.
And the answer is yes.
Yep.
You can trust me, right?
Yep.
So that's, but you know, I can't think of any space in Canada where that's not the case. It's not just real estate, right?
Yeah.
It's just a life model. It's a life model.
It's
Real
everything.
estate might be the place where people are most likely to go in the opposite direction, though.
It can, and that's the
Because they
problem.
see the commission,
Yeah,
they see
yeah,
the fee, they see,
yeah.
yeah. Question for you quickly here. Obviously, we run a podcast, we're doing videos, we're doing LinkedIn posts, and we like to stay informed through reading materials, etc. What are the sources of media that you sort of take in to get a full understanding of the marketplace and keep informed on what's happening?
I used to read, but now if I read for 10 minutes, I fall asleep. Right? Like
So you're going to send us to the podcast for us, that you said.
So podcast, no, my biggest source of information is from your generation. Like I have a team meeting twice a day, and it's Justin or Jordan or Vanessa or whoever who's on the team meeting. They say, after this is going on, you better keep your eye on that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not a web guy. I'm not an internet guy. I'm not a social media guy.
You're using the human capital around you to keep informed.
Like on the planes, going back and forth all the time, wherever I go, I used to read the newspaper. I don't like doing that on the plane anymore.
Right.
Right. So it's really the young kids.
Be out like a light.
But you got to get them to start listening to a podcast so they can start getting this insight. Although they hear it every day.
But even on Air Canada, now when I came in last night, I didn't watch a movie. I look for the documentaries and the podcasts and stuff like that. They're interesting.
Yeah.
They're interesting.
Should we do 3 truths? Do you have anything else, or
How much more time do you have? 5 minutes?
Sure, 5.
okay?
Let's do a few. I want to know more about some of these ones here too.
Okay, are these quick hitters?
It's quicker.
Quick.
Okay,
The
go,
last
go.
one's a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about systems quickly there, and how you said systems are not the answer, relationships are the answer.
Yep.
For someone that is young and using the system still in terms of tracking and stuff, how are you doing that before, and how have you transitioned that? What systems are you using to help you assist with your relationship building and assist you with your skill and knowledge building?
So I got to go way back in time. I did it by hand.
You track by hand.
I did it by hand. When I started for the first almost 10 years, I tracked it by hand.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, by hand.
And
Wrote it on the index card and filed it away.
And do you obviously you probably don't do that anymore.
No, now the young kids tell me.
Oh, they follow up. They know what the proper timing is for
That's
everything.
right.
Okay.
Favorite transaction ever? Dude, that's a tough one.
January 22nd, 1987.
Okay.
Sold 999 West Hastings, the Day On building in downtown Vancouver for $55 million. And it was the first deal I was involved in that the market said I did something positive. Up to that time, they said, well, John McClernand did the deal. Or they said Tony Grieve did the deal. Or they said Bill Boltby did the deal. My partners, right?
Yep.
So January 22nd, 1987, we sold Day On building for $55 million, which is unheard of in those days.
Yeah.
Unheard of. That would have been $220 a foot. Downtown Vancouver.
Wow, yeah.
Sounds like a steal right now. Sounds like the
And that deal,
cost.
it wasn't my favorite deal to do, but it's my favorite deal for memory because it put me on the map. It branded me as this kid actually contributed to the success of this transaction.
Yeah.
That was probably your first. Was that your first momentum builder?
No, we did bigger deals than that before that. But
what was your biggest momentum builder then at that, I guess?
Momentum deal was...
How did you know you were like, okay, I'm ready to go here and I can do this. I know what I'm doing.
Like when we did the Lansdowne deal for $80 million in 1984 or 85, no one knew I was really involved. Momentum builder was probably Hong Kong Bank of Canada building, April 1989 for $130 million. That was probably the one that was like, woo.
Jeez. Right? Back then, too.
Yeah, back then.
Okay, I think we should.
Next.
Okay, so this is our final question.
Okay.
It's called the 3 truths. So imagine, a little esoteric, but imagine years from now, you live a long and beautiful. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned your family man, father of four, right?
Four kids. Yeah.
Can we bring that up, by the way? Talk about that at all? We got 5 more minutes.
Well, this will kind of.
That's
fine. So years from now, imagine it's your last day and
Yeah.
you accomplished everything that you ever wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
You have all of your kids and grandkids around you, and
Yeah.
it was a wonderful life. But for whatever reason, everything that you've ever written, put out, or every recording of you has been erased. And now your family and the people who love you and your friends are wondering if you could put down 3 notes on how to live life and how to
3 notes?
Yeah, 3 truths is what they call it.
3 truths on how you think about life, work, real estate, anything you want. What would those 3? They could be as short.
This is not a short answer. This can be a bit long.
No, I got to keep it short because then I'll go on forever. You know I talk too much on it, right? 3 things. Family first. That was it. Don't do anything that's going to make your loved ones lose face. And I'm not a religious guy, but I'd say try to walk in a straight line. So family first. Don't embarrass people. And walk in a straight line.
Okay.
Excellent. Do you want to expand on any of those? Or?
No, I'll start crying.
Oh, man.
I don't want to cry.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, had lots of fun.
That was
Thanks.
more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Awesome.
Okay?
So
Awesome.
Okay.